And if the program is 2 years, we give them 7 years to pay back.
I went through Qatar's like immigration, and it was probably the shortest ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
my
yeah,
friends
right.
there were telling me that Aramco hires largely expatriates, like the students or
Yes,
people coming.
yes, of course.
So it's the diversity is
is
immense.
for
Pretty sure,
sure.
our guest has done at least 25 countries.
I mean, if I knew there was a contest, you should have
You know,
told me at the beginning of the year.
Welcome, guys, to Jackpot Chronicles podcast. I remain your humble host, King of Jackpot for a reason. Today is a special episode. It's special for a couple of reasons. First of all, Maiwa is not on the episode, which is nice. Maiwa is doing his usual globetrotting.
Okay.
Currently in India, I think, or Thailand, one of the two. And so we have another brother who is not a guest anymore, he's a brother who is filling the tiny shoes of Maiwa. Our own guy, Arogs.
Hey, how you doing?
You want to introduce yourself briefly again?
Sure. Hi everyone. Tolu Arugumati. Super excited to be chatting with you guys. I've
Is it
lived
third
in
time
Canada.
or fourth time?
I think lived in Canada, lived in the US, Canadian, Nigerian.
Yeah.
Super excited. Beautiful experience.
Yeah. And obviously, as you guys know, Jaguar Chronicles has taken a number of turns. We don't like to just talk about it as, Jackpot, like you're immigrating and running away. I think what you find with Maya, Tulu, and Aina is that we just love traveling, whether it's local or international travel.
We go and then we come back.
We do have to come back. I think if I want to count, let's do a head count. Let's do a head count.
I mean, you're trying to you're trying to raise.
No, you want 2024 now?
I mean, sure. 2025. So I've done Canada, Oman, Qatar, UAE, US, Turkey. I think that's it.
You
And then
live in
Nigeria.
US now. You can't count US. But
Of
okay,
course,
let's
I
count.
mean,
Let's go. Let's
Of course.
have it.
So, yeah.
But I think we should segue by saying that I think our guest is probably going to beat us because he
probably
travels
is,
for a living
let's
as
have
well.
him go.
But let me see, where did I start from? I think I did Spain, Portugal, Qatar, Morocco, Rwanda, US, Turkey, Netherlands, Italy, Saudi Arabia. Today I don't visit. this
Exactly.
year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, this year, don't worry.
Well, have I missed anyone, Isaac?
Yeah.
I think that's 11.
So let's let the guests go now.
All right, so let's see.
What?
Introduce
So
him.
I mean, we should introduce him first.
and then we'll go.
But
Yeah.
I'm pretty. I have a sense he's going to beat us hands down. I'm pretty sure
sure.
our guest has done at least 25 countries.
I mean, if I knew there was a contest, you should have
You
told
know,
me at the beginning of the year.
well. But yeah, I mean, our guest today is, for me, I'm a cultural, but I'll call him, he's like my big brother. I met him, I think it's been about 3 years now. He was the boss of one of my very good big brothers, and one of our partners. But now he's sort of in a new phase. He likes to do a lot of exciting things. Should I allow you to tell people about yourself, or should I go on? Do you like?
As you like. I mean, I'm liking the direction you're taking, so I leave it in your hands.
He's a revolutionary when it comes to the education sector in Africa. He doesn't look African, but trust me, he is
I mean,
African.
Egyptian. Now, come on.
What do you mean?
What do you
It
mean?
doesn't look- That's unfair.
That's what
He's
Africans are.
is a core brother from the northern side of Africa.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
He's the VP strategic growth for one of the biggest AI companies now in Northern America called Passage. They are partners at Elevate Education. And I think, drum roll please, as we introduce the VP of Passage, Dr. Khaled.
Thank you.
I'm
That's
prophesying, I know. But yeah,
That's very kind.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Jackpot Chronicles podcast.
Always happy to be with you. And
We
with
talk
the
about
team.
a lot of interesting things about immigration and how it's we chronicle the different stories from here in Nigeria and Africa to the world. Obviously, Tolu and I were just counting our countries. So I know for you travel for a living. So do you want to give me a head count between January and now? It's been almost 11 months this year. How many countries have you been to? Let's do it.
Only this year,
Only this year. This year.
Actually, this year I didn't do much traveling.
That's surprising.
I'll tell you.
Canada.
So overall,
Okay.
in my like lifetime and career, I think I probably visited close to 65 countries. But
Okay, but
and,
this
and,
year?
this year, okay, let me remember. Went to Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkey, India. Obviously, I live in Canada, Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, not Botswana, sorry, Rwanda,
Okay.
Dubai.
It's already on 9.
I think actually,
That's
and
all?
Germany.
And Germany.
There you go.
Yeah,
I said
and
I'm still
that's-
I'm
That's-
still on the
You're
video.
comfortable.
I'm
That's it.
uncomfortable.
That's-
An uncomfortable one, but I'm comfortable.
What's
But that's nice.
but it's
that's
all
nice.
like in and out, you know, conferences
Yes,
and
and
workshops.
that's what I told
so,
them.
yeah,
I mean, some of us love to travel for
and
work.
Cuba.
And Cuba. You forgot Cuba. I'm still safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of us love to travel for work. It's a good blend of maybe for me 80% work, and then you have maybe one day that's just like you're free. But for you, what's it usually like? Is it always work? When last did you take a vacation?
For the most part, last time I took vacation actually wasn't long ago. I had a bit of vacation during this last summer month.
Okay.
But for the most part, yes, I do travel for work, and it's very motivating and stimulating when you travel to see the actual, situation that you're trying to solve for. So even, if we are, bringing a new revolution into the ecosystem, of education globally, it's never one size fits all. So you need to understand the nuance of each community, each society, each education system. And yes, there is a lot of knowledge available online and resources, but actually interacting with professionals like you is more educational to people like me, so that we can design solutions based on the actual needs, not on what we imagine would bring the right solution. So traveling is an eye opener. And when you start doing it at a reasonably young age, it also helps you shape your perspective and shape your character in a way that makes you more helpful, and reliable in the future.
And it's really exactly how I see things, because I was in Saudi Arabia just about 2 weeks ago, and it was the World Academic Summit, so they hosted it in Thual, and I got to see a completely different perspective,
Yes.
different, because I mean I watch a lot of American movies, and they've sort of painted Saudi Arabia in my head, and it was completely different. Obviously we know one or two things that they're popular for, like oil, gold, things like that.
And more recently, football.
I'm more into football, right? Yeah. So those, shout out to see Ronaldo. But I got to see the school. I visited one of our partners now, KAUST is called. King Abdulaziz University of Science and Technology.
That's an elite school.
That's an elite school.
It's an elite. Yeah, it is.
Elite
Yeah.
school.
I've known them.
$20 billion endowment fund.
Wow.
They still have over 10 billion.
Yeah.
And the school is bigger than Athens.
Yeah.
That's it. Did you know? I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
They've got the sea. They've got it's a city on its own.
Yeah.
And that part of the Thual itself is known for its oranges, like it's known for fruit juice. It's a real beautiful place. It's a school where students from all over the world come, and it's completely free. It's scholarships. They pay you stipends. They have beautiful houses. They
for
build.
Saudi students.
So it's a beautiful place, and I would have lived on many years thinking that Saudi Arabia is
Still backwards in a way.
You're backwards or fear for your life. Like, you see all these things in the movies. Those of us who like Jack Bauer and and you're like, this is the
PR,
yes.
the PR, what it looks like.
So, and that was just to segue from what you said, is that experience changed my life. It was the same thing that when I went to Qatar, because I went through Qatar's immigration, and it was probably the shortest ever.
Yeah.
It's really fast.
It was just technology. They just scanned me, and the guy was like,
even the World, when it was a World Cup time, because I went for the World Cup, you didn't even have to talk to anybody. You just scan.
You just walk through. Yeah, you just walk through. In and out now. In places like the UAE, there is no interaction at all, both ways.
It's fantastic.
It is. It is. And speaking about Saudi Arabia's post-secondary institutions, I know that they do have a vision to bring Saudi Arabia to become like an attractive hub for international students to study there. So they are not making those facilities just for locals and citizens. They
Foreign,
also want to
yes.
attract
Yes.
not the expatriate community, but also students to come,
Yes.
directly
Yes.
from their
Yes.
country, yes, and
And
study there.
we were told that they only had about if I'm not wrong, I think 1,005 students on that campus. It's a real big campus, but they're not eger to grow the way you would think that a big school should have
all this,
10,000
Tens of
students,
thousands
right?
of students, yeah.
And 70% are international students.
I wonder, did they have interest in professors? Because I mean, I'm an adjunct professor.
looking for a job?
I'm an adjunct at Queen's University. I teach product management at the MBA level. I
I'm
would
sure
love-
they are actually.
Yeah, I'm
no,
sure.
no, I'm
But
sure they
I don't
are.
know if they have those courses yet, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they
I'm
will.
sure-
They'll-
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Because-
and obviously big companies like they've got Aramco.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
my
yeah,
friends
right.
there were telling me that Aramco hires largely expatriates, like the students or
Yes,
people
yes,
coming.
yes, of course.
So it's the diversity is immense.
Yes.
They are getting the
True.
best of the best, and obviously they have the money.
True, true.
And the interesting thing is, a lot of people are not really even aware. Like I remember, it was in my last class we did for the MBA program I was teaching. I had one group work on Kareem, and they were like, they've never heard of this thing. It's like that is so ubiquitous in my mind. They're like, oh, we don't have an opportunity to play with it. I'm like, there's so much data. So you start to realize that a lot of these things that are happening in the Middle East, more people need to become aware of it. And so that's what.
Very true. No,
Yeah,
no, very,
so-
very, very true.
Yeah. So, Khalid, I mean, you've been in this Nigerian education space for many years. Let's say Africa generally, maybe 20 plus years.
Correct.
And now you have taken, I mean, a new challenge. Can you tell me why, what intrigued you about this challenge? What intrigued you about building against something new?
Sure, absolutely. So, yes, I've been in the space, of working around Africa for more than 20 years. And since day one, when I started to experience and see the level of beautiful talent we have around Africa, and felt that if I'm ever giving the opportunity to unlock some of the potential for these talents so that they find their way forward in life through education, that would be something I would be very happy to be part of. And that what kept me, always coming back to Nigeria, always coming back to Africa, because the determination and focus on education from families and students never changed. So you would see Nigeria has changed a lot in the past 20 years, but the desire to build a future on education has even grown better. That never have changed. What intrigued me to work on a new challenge is, things do evolve, needs do change, and circumstances also shifts from time to time. And what I found, that have been something I always wanted to find maybe a partial solution or a big solution for it, is when I come to Nigeria, for example, and I get an opportunity to meet with a Southern student in few days event, there's been always a percentage of them, not small, who are very qualified, highly academic achievers, but they were lacking the access due to financial resources. And these are always like pain points for me, because I would remember the student, I remember the story, I remember the mother asking and feeling disappointed that the fees are higher than what I can afford. And it was always in the back of my mind, how can this be solved? Because at some point we are leaving behind the African Einstein. He is here somewhere.
Yep.
Miss Marconi is here somewhere, but we are not facilitating, beyond access. So we provide access, we give quite a good counseling, we bring the best programs, but only for those who can afford it completely, which is good, because that's required to build a society. But also, what about those talents who cannot fully afford their studies abroad? So that has always been like a dream of mine, and that's what Passage is trying to solve. So Passage is basically not another admission platform. It's actually a complete ecosystem that actually tackles and solves for fundamental, factors that should facilitate the accessibility more for students. And that's what actually motivates me to be part of this innovative move.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you to talk about passive, but you just did. But you touched on something that I think resonates also with Tolu, because, like he said, he's an adjunct professor now, and he can give you a bit of a story of how he got funded, for his MBA. But before he does that, what really would Passage be doing for the average Nigerian today, or the average African looking to go abroad? What countries are you guys currently working in? What should people be looking forward to in the next year, 2026?
Sure, absolutely. So you mentioned that Tulu got funded for his MBA. I'll start from that point, if you don't mind.
Please go for it.
Usually, funding starts at, for the most part, at a postgraduate level, and that's another thing we are solving for that. We bring funding to the undergraduate level, which is non-existent at this point. And I think it is very important, because at the age of 17, 18, 19, that's where actually there is the highest level of energy in young person to achieve. If they provided the opportunity, the possibilities are endless. So we wanted to bring the access to that point. What we are doing at this point is we started, because we are a Canadian company based in Canada, and growing fast. We started by focusing on the Canadian sector. So at the moment, we are offering accessibility to more than 24 universities and colleges in Canada, among them like the most popular institutions. And we are intending to diversify beyond Canada by exploring other destinations that we know are in high demand in Africa for our students and parents. And what we did is we reversed the recruitment cycle in a different architecture. And you as an expert and you as a professor, you would understand me. Traditionally, the recruitment cycle would start by an interested student who would come to your office, ask for advice, receives an excellent guidance, then find a program that suits their academic background and financial capabilities. Then we guide them through admissions and maybe guide them through the visa.
That's right.
Right? That's our cycle. And it ends there for the most part. We don't follow through, what happens after that. That was a tradition that was possible, to bring part of what the student need for the last 25 years. But now with the world is changing and regulations and immigration laws are changing, we find out like actually student success requires a different architect. It requires a different structure. So we started from actually looking now how Passage works is what we look at the final outcome, which is being employed. So we look at what are the jobs required in the market. Then we look for which schools that provide education that feeds into that. Then we find the student who meets those requirements. So we are doing it in reverse now, not just an interest to go abroad, but actually the ability to fill in the jobs so that we can guarantee a lifelong career for you, not just an educational journey. So we are doing things a bit differently, and luckily, and thanks to the hard work of our team, we almost have 100% of employment for all our graduates, including some wonderful Nigerian students that I met in person. Yeah, they came and shared their story as well. So the short answer at the moment, it's Canada, but very soon and before the end of 2025, so during Q4, the next 2 months, you will see another country being launched with very focused list of institutions that we know are very high demand in Nigeria, particularly.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting because that's a lot of what was important to me while I was making my own journey. So of course we went to the same secondary school, right? And after I finished from there, my plan was always I was going to work in technology. I don't know how I'm going to do, but I'm going to work in technology, and I want to be like an executive in technology. That was always kind of my mindset. So what I did was after I finished school, I looked for schools. Ghana was one of the places I looked into. Looked like the UK, of course, standard. But luckily for me, someone in my family pulled my parents aside and was like, hey, consider Canada. And so I remember, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but my aunt pulled my dad aside, and essentially that's how I got into Canada. So I did an engineering degree at Carleton in Canada. So that's what I did, my engineering undergrad. I worked as a software developer for the first 3 years. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I need to make a transition. Now, the way I went abroad for funding was my family had to do that.
Okay. All right.
And of course, so that's kind of how we pulled that set of funds together.
Yeah.
And to your point, there wasn't a lot of options in terms of any external funding. So if your family can't do it, that was the end. So, it was difficult because my parents did make sacrifices. I remember at one point my mom sold her car. But points being, there were sacrifices made so that I could go. once I finished, I know that my parents couldn't do anymore because they're tapped out. Like they've tried their best. So at the point where I wanted to do a master's or an MBA, at that time I had become a permanent resident of Canada.
Okay.
So at that point, I had access to other options because Nigeria couldn't do anything for me, couldn't really find a lot of options. I applied for the MBA and luckily Queen's accepted, and I got a small scholarship from them.
Great school.
Right, thank you.
Great
So, and then after I had to do, I took loans. So from the government of Canada, from RBC, one of the banks in Canada, because again, the options I didn't know any, there wasn't anything like you around at that time for me to, be guided around. And so I did that, and then I got into my MBA program, finished. And then shortly after finishing the MBA program, I started working as well. So I worked at companies like IBM, Facebook, Reddit, those kinds of companies are where I've worked. And then one of the professors that I had learned under was like, hey, would you like to teach? And so that's what I do now, where I'm now working again in the MBA that I graduated out of. I now teach in that MBA program.
That's great.
So I have one course in that and I have another in another master's program. My point being, that was kind of my own journey. There wasn't anyone to like guide me like you have now, which is fantastic, which I think this is a fantastic initiative. I hope, it's successful, especially because you're doing a lot of great work and tying people back to employment, because that is the difficult part. It's tricky.
It is really
you can get all these education, you can get all this stuff, and now you can't really place anywhere. So I'm super excited to hear a lot about that as well.
Thank you.
And I mean, for Tolu's story, it's that you go to an MBA program, you pay that amount of money, and you're able to get some funding. Now, we also hear that in America, for instance, I don't know about other countries, but popularly America, it's the credit system that allows you to get loans for school. It's real good. Is it safe to say that that's what Passage is now going to be doing for international students, which is basically, obviously, you only have to think about 25% of the money, but we would basically be funding you and helping you get a job? Would you say that's what sort of Passage is also doing?
More or less, if we want to really simplify it,
exactly,
yes, it can come down to that. So we do provide the students with different scenarios depending on their needs. So students can request funding from Passage for their tuition fees only, or for their tuition and living expenses.
Wonderful.
And based on the choice they will make, we would ask the students just to provide 25 to 23 to 35% cash collateral to ensure they are serious, and we will be covering the rest. So if a program for example is 2 years, we would be paying the school the 2 years tuition plus providing the student with a monthly installment to cover their living expenses as well.
Nice.
So the student can be 100% focused on their studies, and definitely this should give more confidence towards their visa application as well, because the money is guaranteed by a Canadian company that is listed as a Canadian educational sponsorship organization as well. So it carries a lot of weight for their visa application, hopefully, because it's a legitimate proof of funds rather than a bank statement.
It's very difficult now.
Locally, I agree.
The cap is raised even.
I have been dealing with this, for a number of years, and I know how tricky it can become for families. So we are trying to solve a real issue, like I said. So it's not just an admissions, processing AI machine. It's actually way more than that. And once they are ready for their employment, we have already contracted 3 of the largest hospitals in the GTA area, which is employing our graduates. And Tulu would tell you the trickiest sector in Canada to find employment is healthcare. So we are also tackling that because there is shortage of talent within the country. So we are bringing the students to elite programs at publicly funded institutions that guarantees the integrity of the teaching and the outcomes as well, and tying that to the labor market needs. So our students step out of the programs and start employment immediately.
I mean, one thing that I would admit is that the organization Passage really must believe in Africa. Obviously, Africans have been going abroad for many years, like other continents, but you must really believe in Africa. What's really driving you guys to saying that you want to do this for Africa? Is it, like you said, trying to find the next talent? What exactly about Africa really excites Passage?
I think, first of all, I mean, me personally, being African and realizing, the abundance of talent that we have here, and understand the surge in demand for international quality education, that is there, that provides an opportunity for the institutions to find the right talent for them. For me, I see, the value that African talents bring back to the country, like Tulu, when he graduates and come back to Nigeria, either, to teach or to be a volunteer or to coach, new
to invest.
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or to invest and all that. And I believe the only way forward for Africa is through education. I mean, it may sound cliche, but I'm a bit older than you guys, and I was born during the apartheid time
Yeah.
in Africa, and one of my life idols has always been Nelson Mandela, and he always said, the most powerful weapon that could change the world is education, and these words are just carved in my heart and my brain, and I'm very happy to be given the opportunity to provide a very small part, to see some of our African students really making their way forward. Aside from that, from the economical, way of things, it's a matter of supply and demand. And Passage does realize, that it's also an economical opportunity for institutions, to find the right diversity to bring to bring to their lecture halls, and for Passage to be the mediator that brings all the parties together within the ecosystem to make that happen. To give you, like a very small statistic, about the demand in Nigeria, last year, Nigeria was among the top 3 countries actually sending students abroad. And last year, there have been more than 100,000 Nigerians who moved out of Nigeria to study. So that's the size of the opportunity from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
But for me as well, from an academic and, community development, it can show you if 10% of those 100,000 choose to come back to Nigeria, you can imagine they will actually perform miracles for us.
And we have a culture, even as Nigerians and New Africans in general, to study engineer, doctor, lawyer. Like this is that
Of
thing
course.
is built in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Of course, again, there's space for everything else. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that culture is just imbibed in us, and even in my own classroom, you see a lot of people that are international, the spread, and you see the Africans are really about it. When they come in, they're committed. They're
Yeah,
not,
100%.
so it's
100%. Very resilient, very strong.
Yeah.
There are hardly any issues that arises, from African students. Once they arrive there, they are focused on the mission, and very admirable.
Yeah. So obviously Passage is basically solving a big problem for us here, which is, well, I think it's twofold, because one is the funding opportunities, and like you also touched on, is that with funding then helps sort of our visa issues, right? The recent report says that we're down to 48% visa approvals for Canada. Now Passage is basically tackling that. What do you want the Nigerian students to understand? Because I know for a fact that when people hear these things, we get very excited. We're saying, oh, yes, let me run there. What do you want to tell people? Because you have changed the architecture. You also need to let them know, okay, these are the schools that we have, right? So can we talk about the schools and the courses that Passage is really looking for talent?
Yes, absolutely. So Passage has no bias, what the student would like to study. But when it comes to funding has to be tied with employment outcome so that it's guaranteed, success for the student, the university, and for Passage as well to recover, the funding that we put forward, right? So let's just make it clear that students are free to make any choice they want in the line of studies they choose. And in the schools, we have like a big number of schools available on Passage for them to choose from. But at this point, we are structuring the funding according to the employability outcome of those programs. So we started with offering funds through 4 main large schools in Canada. If you want like me to name them, I can.
Sure.
So George Brown, in Toronto, downtown Toronto, Bow Valley College, Assiniboine as well. And, we are focusing on STEM programs.
Yeah.
So programs
Science,
that
tech, engineering,
science,
and
tech,
math.
engineering, and math,
Yeah.
and with a huge emphasis also on the health sector.
Mm-hmm.
So health informatics, nursing, personal support workers.
Yeah.
Like there is big demand on that. So my advice to our Nigerian students is to look at the employment outcomes rather than the prestige of the credential. I can relate to what Tulu said. You know, all our African parents, not Nigerians, want you to be a
Yeah.
lawyer, a doctor,
yeah.
an engineer, and everything else beyond after that. You know, is not they are not really 100% happy with us.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you know, that those jobs that I just mentioned are highly respected jobs,
Yeah.
highly paid jobs, unionized, provide, you know, job security for career, you know, benefits and all that, and the country needs them. So they are in a favorable position, you know, that once they graduate and start working, you know, that they actually have job security
Yeah.
to build roots and future in Canada. So I appreciate what you're saying. You know, when we say there's funding possibilities, people get excited, but we want them to stay focused and choose programs that are related to AI development, programming, health sciences, nursing, all these programs, and there is thousands and thousands of opportunities for students. So don't think they are limited programs. They are actually big, and we are adding more and more programs every day.
I mean, for you, Tolu, you lived in Canada for over 10 years.
13.
What will you say
Yeah.
for you is the biggest challenge that you, as an international student, you've faced in line with funding opportunities, and what obviously Passage is now looking to solve?
So one of the cool things is you don't know what you don't know, right? Because you don't even know what is possible. You don't know, right? So I know a lot of my friends who self-selected out of opportunities because they were like, it's not possible. You see the cost of it, you're like, you know, it's not for me, right? And when you find opportunities like this, where it's like, okay, we will actually take that burden off of you as long as you can find this small snippet, all of a sudden you're excited, to your point, right? Like,
Correct.
but if you don't even know, you just self-select out. You look at tuition, you again scroll quickly, tuition fees, you see 100 and some, I'm out. And so then there's that challenge. The other thing that also then comes to mind is, okay, I find out there's an opportunity here, someone's going to pay for it for me. How do I pay it back? And then you start worrying about, okay, again, as the Nigerians and even Africans in general, we don't like anybody.
debt. We
I
don't
like
like
going
debt
debt.
at
Like
all.
if I'm owing someone £5 now, hey, and they're calling me, is it because of money you're calling me?
Yeah.
Right? So that mindset that we need to change. But one of the things that I've experienced having gone through that process is if you are focused on the outcome, those things, again, you have to have a plan, but they take care of themselves over time. In my own case, by the time I was done with everything, I was owing about $117,000. That was my own. But my own goal was always I was going to pay this off as fast as possible. So I was done in 24 months, paying it off. Now, again, that's aggressive. Some other people, right? That's aggressive. But some people will say, okay, you know what, I'll take my time. But my point is the option at least provides itself where it's like, okay, it will take care of education. Now you're employed, especially when there's a placement option where it's like, you're going to get employment. You're going to be able to take care of yourself and take care of your family. And so now in my own case, I'm not able to come back home, do all these things with you.
Yeah.
My brother is now also gone. So you see how that becomes a chain. And so those kind of things, you start to see, I feel like seeing a success story helps a lot. And I think this is part of what that does really well.
Yeah, and I mean for you, Khalid, because when I look at it, I'm asking myself that with your data, what is Passage seeing that the Canadian government needs and the Canadian economy needs right now? What kind of students? What do you think that we should be looking at from here?
The shortage, you mean, in labor market is in actually very critical sectors.
Okay.
You know, Canada's population, Tulu definitely is part of this conversation and reads about it a lot, is the Canadian population is decreasing rather than increasing with even all the immigrants coming in. So the birth rate in Canada is quite low. And that...
You guys need men?
we need everybody.
We need everybody here.
You need
Men,
everybody.
women.
We need,
We need everybody.
we need couples who
We need-
agrees. You know,
Yep.
I think it's and it's been going, I think, since the 60s. You like the birth rate, you know, hasn't been as high to a point that keeps the country sustainable. Okay, and that's why Canada has like a very big immigration program. But at the same time, how you can actually have people fit into the labor market, equipping them with the right skills, you know, in very important and critical jobs like early childhood education. We have aging population, so you need personal support workers. Immigration, whether growing or not, you need nurses and doctors. You need teachers, and you know, now with the tech evolution, you know, in every sector, you're looking, you know, at more programmers, developers, security engineers. All these types of jobs, you know, is what Canada needs now. Canada does not need more people to work in retails or hospitality. Yes, there are jobs in there, but these jobs are almost more guaranteed, you know, for a high revenue, for a continuity and, you know, stability. So I would say Canada needs those sectors and trades as well. So there's huge needs, you know, like for technologists, people who work, for example, in nuclear power plants, technicians, mechanics, plumber, you know, all these jobs. This is what Canada actually needs. So the 15 years of recruiting students to Canada to come to do business degree or a 2-year postgraduate, you know, business related or project management related, I don't think that's the way forward. The way forward is technology, technicians, nursing, teaching. Those are essential jobs, you know, for the country to continue to run. So it's a pragmatic matchmaking, you know, between students who see Canada, you know, as the wonderful place it is. And Tolu and I can be, you know, like witnesses and testify to the wonderful opportunities Canada provide. But at the same time, providing Canada with something it needs from us.
And I think I'm going to try and tie two questions because this conversation is very interesting. For a couple of years ago, people would send letters or documents to like countries via like DHL. Now technology has sort of advanced up until now. We have AI, which is a lot more different. It even does a lot of predictions and assistance. And so for Passage, you have basically said to a young Nigerian like me that, oh, without having to go to your bank here, just by the click of a button or through an agency like Elite Education, you can connect with education funding opportunities, right? The only way you're able to do that now is because of technology.
Correct.
And I would say that Passage is now basically what I would call a global force, right? You guys are basically now using AI to do what has never been done before. Now, on the other hand, is the problems for the Nigerian students or families that you're solving, right? So what else about what you're doing should Nigerians know? Because one of the things that I remember that Tolu and I have discussed is that when he went in as a young man from secondary school, there were a lot of, let's say, nuances, just some little things that nobody really told him that he had to learn on his own, right? And we've talked about it before. What will Passage be doing for also the average 15, 16, 17-year-old from secondary school that is coming to settle in Canada? You know,
or anywhere, because
anywhere.
we will go beyond Canada. Well, I'll start, you know, by mentioning that we are very committed to providing the right guidance, you know, to whether our students, you know, or our partners like yourselves, through continuous education and training on what it is actually, what is required, you know, whether to join an institution or to live successfully, and to set very clear expectations on the process of admission itself, the arrival, the pre-arrival. Maybe you are referring to pre-arrival orientation, you know. Many people don't do that, and it's a very interesting actually idea that maybe we should look into it. But what I want to families and young students to know is Passage is committed to providing the right information, the accurate solution that is tailor-made to each individual, you know, case, how you want to proceed forward with your education. The second thing that I would like them to know, that they need to rely on the services of young professionals like yourselves, because you have experienced the difficulties, you see the value of the solution, and you would be able actually to tailor it for them so that they can benefit from that. Our intention at Passage is only to work with very very reliable, trustworthy, organizations like yourself on a small scale, not in like, we are not putting this in everyone's hands. It's actually a select group of trusted partners like yourself. So I would advise families to reach out to you to try to gain your advice on the way forward, because this is, I think, going to facilitate the journey to a great extent for them. When it comes to what we can do in terms of preparing them for their journey, I think there is so much that we can do, and I can learn from your wisdom and knowledge. We can basically create a lot of content that could be made available for them once they're settled on a program. So these are like, I think this is work in progress, but we are very open, and thank you for bringing this up. In 2 lives ago, when I worked for a school, we used to do something called pre-departure orientation. So I would come out to Nigeria, and I have 50, 60 students, coming for the January intake. I would have a meeting with them and their families, and I will share some information. Of course, with the tech, evolution, we don't have to do that in person now. We can create, content that people can view and benefit from, right? We can create, content that they can review, at their leisure time, whenever it's convenient for them. But I would love to gain
because
some advice from you.
I'm going to get to why I asked that question because Tolu has an interesting story. Because it just came up in my head. The average Nigerian would just think that, oh, you say I should come do, for instance, mechanic or a welding technician. Whereas our language here is that the welders here are like less than everybody.
Less than successful.
While not understanding that they probably even earn more than your average CEO here.
Yeah.
And so the content that Passage can give us now means that we can either play it for them or send it and say, look, this is actually how this works in Canada.
Yes.
Welders are not the way you see them here, all ruggedy under the sun and things like that. This is how much money you can make. Because I remember that Tolu told me that there was nobody to really guide him. But by the time he figured it out, he already started buying houses before he graduated from university, if I'm not wrong. So I think that's sort of that part that Passage would continue to connect. And obviously the second thing that was on my mind was mental health. Because when you have a lot of Africans in Canada, a lot of our problems is that not too many people get us. Right, you are African, he's African. So you already understand what we could possibly feel leaving my home-based country.
How to blend in, how to settle in. Yeah,
like
no, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'll tell you something. I think a day or two before I started my trip, I was having a meeting, and all our meeting rooms are like full glass, so it's transparent, you see. And I see like an African kid, walking into the office and like standing there, doesn't know anybody, just standing there wondering, like, somebody come talk to me. So I left my meeting. It's like, hi, like, how can we help you? So I heard about Passage. Someone told me to come here and talk to you, about what the possibilities that you support me. I want to apply to a new program. I'm not happy. I was told by one, and I know the kid actually was from Nigeria. Wow. So I called 2 of our counselors to start talking with them. So in terms of, providing support, we are very approachable. Exactly. We are reachable, and we definitely can understand what the needs are, of students, whether, like a Nigerian or a Turkish or Russian, everybody that actually moved to a new country requires some sort of hand-holding, to help them understand the new realities they are in. And I have to tell you this. Like, Nigerian students are among the toughest and the strongest.
Yeah,
once they are focused. I'm just telling you, once they are focused, I mean, I would say in more than 20 years, I don't recall many issues that actually came from students not being able to adapt or anything, like very social people, very strong people. Really makes me proud working with them.
I mean, Nigerians, you've not had systems before, and someone gives you a system. You always have to fight without a system. And I was like, just do this,
Yeah. They're very appreciative when you offer them, help And I'll actually make sure that my colleague and I share with you a video of one of our recent graduates from a personal support worker program who came to the office, and we were having like a group breakfast, and he shared his story, and we filmed it, and it's really very moving where he was in his life, and through passage landing in that program and then getting his first job. Like, he talks about it very, very briefly. I'll share it with you.
Definitely, I can't wait to watch it, because there's so many things. Even PSW, right? Like, same thing. It's PSW, MSW, all these roles. Like, oh, it's social work. And it pays so well. It takes care of families, and it does so much social good. Like, these are some things, to your points, that like, as Nigerians, like, it's gonna be a counselor. I beg. But you realize it's
because right now, I think the stat that we have in Nigeria, that's at the last time that they counted, right, was that there's one ratio over 1,000 students to a counselor. And sometimes in our schools here, the counselor doubles as CRK teacher or English
something
teacher.
else. So you're not really.
And so for them and even the students, we are used to counselors being also either not available or not being well paid. Right. Sometimes even the counselor needs to be cancelled.
That's a good one. Yeah, of course. Because of the load, yes. Because of the workload.
And so it's a very interesting.
That's a good one.
And that's really the mindset shift, right? Yeah. So I think working with Passage, we're going to be the hard work is we're going to do a lot of reorientation. We talked about that earlier today, of those changing mindsets of people that look. We're trying to help you, but you must first see these things so that you can actually enjoy the full scope of what we're helping you to do.
Quickly on that, I remember the first time I discovered is accommodations, even in university. Like, oh, hey, either you can't hear very well or you're struggling to see, notes can be taken for you. And I was like, in my whole life, I always thought that if you don't write your own notes, nothing for you.
Yeah.
And you realize all these services are available to you, and it's like, life doesn't have to be so difficult.
No.
Especially in all these things where there's support. And again, to the point, if you don't know, you will not even ask, because you don't even know it's possible.
Exactly.
So by the time programs like you guys are available to say, okay, here's what you can do, you can ask questions, anything, can reach out to us, it makes your life so much easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a good line, right? The realization that things don't have to be difficult. Like, that's what Passage really is doing for you. That's what any good organization should be doing in any sector for you. But let's go back to Khaled, because obviously, like we said, people would see you like, oh, is this white man? But you're African, right? You obviously have a lot of stories about even Nigerians, which I would love to hear one of your stories because you have many stories. But can you just really tell me, when I look at how resilient you've been, your leadership, your philosophy, your purpose, what really has been your driving force? What will you look to tell the Africans then that, oh, this is me, I was you 25 years ago, and this is how you should take advantage of what's going on right now?
Absolutely. Actually, it's more than 25 years ago when I was in their shoes, nice. Aspiring international student, with no help, no counseling, no friends like you, to give me advice. No, seriously. And it was very difficult that I had to go, to embassies in Cairo and ask them, how can I actually correspond with your universities? And, if you go to the US, they have a big book, of universities, British
USA,
Council,
exactly
like that. Wow. And I used to write physical letters, just type it on, a computer and, send, what I'm wishing. And you hear, maybe 1 out of 10 universities write back and probably with a rejection because my letter wasn't properly written. That's not how you apply, etc. So I was definitely in their shoes, and sometimes I wish for them to understand that what they are being provided now wasn't available to their parents or their uncles or their aunties. Things were like really a lot less accessible, but they are very fortunate to live in this time and day where they have, the connectivity and, the revolution of communication that makes every information, available to them, but also companies like yours that actually filter through
Yeah.
and get them the right amount of knowledge that they need,
Yeah.
and companies like Passage that design a solution to suit them. All that didn't exist before, and I wish for them to be encouraged. What I want to tell them, you don't need a permission to dream globally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? The door is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're gonna push you through it.
Yeah.
But you need to have this desire. So this is my message to them. I was you, and there was no one there. Now I am here as like you coming back from the future to tell you, take this opportunity, because the best thing that you can do in your life is to get a good education when you are ready for it. So no permission needed, just the desire and the commitment, and seeking the right advice from people like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in labor education, we've been doing this for over 10 years, right? Being able to be part of people's stories, right? And that's one of the things that people don't realize about me when I'm selecting partners for any of my businesses, is that a good story and a good vision is much more interesting than just business, right?
Correct.
You've shared yours now, he's shared his before, and now people will be thinking, okay, guys, you've talked about this education funding opportunities, but how do I get this? Like, okay, obviously reach out to Labor Education, we're one of the partners,
Yeah.
but it sounds all nice. How difficult is it going to be? Because nothing is also so easy. So can you tell our listeners, because we are going to be thinking interest rates in Nigeria, interest rate is like 30-something%.
Oh God.
Are you going to kill me with interest rates? How am I going to get this loan? And I try to explain to them that, look, I don't even call it a loan. I think it's an education funding opportunity, because it's like you're saying,
Very true.
I'll pay your school fees, right? And I'll get you a job.
Yeah.
Just reconcile and help the next person. That's
That's
how. That's
Yes.
what
You're funding the next person.
You're funding the next person.
Yes.
But let him hear from the VP of Strategic Growth of Passage, who needs to tell them that, guys, this is how this interest work. This is how these programs work.
Absolutely.
and this is what you can,
Absolutely.
the
It's actually
timeline and
very,
things like
very
that.
simple. If any student or family come to your office, you know how simple the process is. It's just actually a matter of selecting a program. And like I said, at this point, we are offering funding solutions for students in 4 major Canadian colleges, very popular already in Nigeria, such as George Brown, Niagara, Bow Valley, and Assiniboine. They can come to you, select the institution, and from there they will see the programs that are available for funding. Select one of them, and then indicate, do they need a funding for tuition only or tuition and living expenses? Immediately they will see a very simple calculation. This is the total amount that is required to cover your son or daughter's education for the duration of the program you selected, and this is how much you need to put up front. Very, very simple. Doesn't take even 30 seconds for you to guide them. Then you'll tell them, if you can come up with this small amount, the rest has been taken care of by us. And while you are studying, we will be paying the student their monthly living expenses if they choose to. And there will be a small portion of it that goes back to the loan they start paying. And if the program is 2 years, we give them 7 years to pay back. So it's actually on simple terms.
And you can certainly pay back before 7 years is over.
Oh, absolutely. And if we look at any program and the average income of employees from that program, you will see that they can afford paying. But the thing is, we want to make the opportunity available to as many people as possible. So like you said, students being committed to the journey would not just actually be elevating their future opportunities, but they are also opening the door for others to follow, because then we can fund more students. Speaking on the interest rate, the interest rate I think we are offering is the lowest globally. It's 11.95% fixed, never changed. And also another added value is the student can pay their loan at any time with no payment penalty. So tomorrow the father get promoted or they sell a piece of land and they want to just pay off the loan, there is no payment penalty. They can just pay it. The other very, very important thing, that in the rare case of a student being rejected a visa after, the tuition has been paid and all that, you are an expert and you know that the refund process sometimes takes 2 to 3 months. If they are applying through Passage, it's a full refund within 1 week with no administrative fees deduction.
Because sometimes you will lose $200, $500, $1,000.
Between 200 to 500, depending on the school. With actually Passage, there is no deduction at all, and it's 1 week turnaround time.
I mean, Passage is doing a lot of things in good faith, right? And one thing that I'm seeing is that you guys are not really operating like it's a loan. Again, I think it's an education funding opportunity because everything that you're doing is not what banks or loan
as well.
sharks
Yeah.
would do.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't even want, I just say, guys, it's EFOs, right? Education funding opportunities. And I tell my students, I say, look, whether you have the money or you don't have the money, you're basically going through this journey to be able to help the next person. And I really wish any students who goes through Passage with Ilewe's understanding that when I do this, I can probably fund 10 more people over the next couple of years, because I have a lot of, you know, customers who have gone abroad, who are done with school, who are now helping
Very
the
true.
next generation,
true.
you know, to go abroad.
Very true.
And that's really exciting.
Very true. And it increases the confidence in the process as well,
Yes.
so that we can make more funds available.
Yes.
The other thing about the funding program is there is no application fee to receive funding. There is no taxes added on top of
No
that.
extra
So
anything.
it's very simple. You
Yeah.
know, what you see is what you
get.
get. It's a fixed rate, never change. Pay whenever you can, no penalty. And like you said, help the next person, because that increases the confidence, you know, that we can raise more funds to make available for more students, and also give confidence for the IRCCs that those students are serious. So the approval rate for students under that program to get their visas will increase, and then you create a flywheel of success from there, right? Because things
Because
then will
everything-
accelerate and you will create momentum.
And it's funny because I haven't said this out loud yet, but like one of the things that I've looked to do with my foundation is to be able to help fund the next generation. Obviously, everybody's going to say, why not fund your own people here and your own schools here? But I think that this Passage also gave me an opportunity to say to my friends like Tolu, to say, look, how much money do you want to put into funding one person to go abroad? Because that 25%, if you found a genius here who couldn't even afford that 25%, you could have foundations.
Someone raise
or
it on
government
their
or raise
behalf,
that money.
on their behalf,
And,
yeah. But like I said, it's a huge step in the right direction. Our hope that one day, you know, every student will not even need to think about how to pay for their education. But you know, it's a journey, and it requires, you know, many steps and a lot of collaboration, you know, and we are taking charge and taking lead, and hopefully more people will join the movement as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's you can obviously take the Passage path. You can do it in combination with, you know, foundations. You can do it in combination with grants,
Government,
scholarships.
Certainly.
All of that together, I think,
Certainly,
again, creates more opportunities
certainly,
for others. So
yeah.
that's
All right.
Certainly.
Thank you guys for listening today, for watching, depending on what means you're using to connect to Jackpot Chronicles podcast. I remain your humble host, the King of Jackpot.
You're that humble. You're that humble.
Yes, I just remembered I didn't add China and UAE.
Your Highness.
So,
He's not humble. You
I
see,
didn't add China to that list.
Thank
And I should have done South Africa last week, but Remo Stars decided to be humbled here
Yeah.
by Mamelodi Sundowns. But yeah, reach out to Ilewe Education if you're interested in studying abroad. Certainly, if you're looking for these EFO opportunities with Passage, and begin your journey today, because obviously January 2026 may be very difficult right now, still possible, but for March, May, and September intakes, depending on what school you're going for, now is the time to apply. Now is the time to plan. I always tell my students, studying abroad is like Planned Parenthood. Right, you don't just say I want to just have a child today, or I want to just get married today. Right, you need to plan for those things, and Passage is allowing you to be able to get opportunities that you may not have gotten yourself, or it's now saying that, look, you've saved this money. Maybe you were even looking to get a car, but now with that 25%, you can get into Canada, right? And in 2 years, you're done with school. In a couple of years, you're a permanent resident. You choose to stay in Canada, or you choose to go to the US or the Middle East.
Anywhere you want to be.
Again, the journey begins today, right? And we just want to be part of making that journey easy. I always say this: if it didn't day, it didn't day, right? You leave it for a reason. Thank you guys for coming.
you so
Thank you
much
very
for
much.
having us.
Lovely
It's a
episode.
pleasure.
Thank you.
It's a
Cheers.
pleasure.